Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video we're going to be talking about Number I's performance in Venue 101 on NHK last night. Now if you're new here on my channel, I'm such a huge fan of them. I usually talk about J-dramas and other Asian dramas, but more specifically I also talk about J-pop or other Asian artists, and with most of the focus being Number I because I'm such a huge fan of them. It's quite interesting because Sho, Kishi, and Jin, this is their first appearance in a music show, and Venue 101 is also where they last appeared as members of Kimpari before they officially left the group. So it's kind of like a full circle moment, and that's what makes it extra special that they did their first performance as this new unit with their new single GOAT in the show as well. Along with the broadcast last night, they also announced that not just GOAT, but other B-side songs that they'll be releasing in their single on March 6th will be available in a number of streaming platforms, almost all of them. And it's just so interesting to me. I'll talk more about it later in today's video, but I'll be putting a link to the pre-save of that down in the description below. And yeah, without further ado, let's just talk through it. Oh, I wouldn't be flashing the video right here because NHK will claim copyright to the performance if I put it here, but I just want to talk about and share my thoughts about, just the performance itself. First things first, of course, I'm really curious as to how they're going to perform it, simply because GOAT is not an easy song. It's not an easy song to perform, at least on a vocal level, and its choreography is also very intense. So I wasn't sure how they're going to do it. Obviously, there's a lot of breathing involved when you're singing live while you're dancing. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in previous videos before, but I'm definitely a lot more forgiving to artists in general, not just Number I, but for artists who opt to lip sync, especially when the choreography is super intense, of course, it's like another story if it's just a very nice, chill song and the artist still opts to lip sync for it. I think that's when I'm kind of but I think just for songs in general that is super high level, intense, all these things, I know that there's a balance between wanting to perform it vocally that is proper and also performing the choreography right. So again, I'm really curious as to how they will do that for GOAT before I watched, what went on in the performance. Now, what I do think happened is so genius of them. It probably had a lot of strategy and rehearsals to make it right, because number one, they performed the vocals live, and the reason why I think so is because the registers that they are using while they were singing it is very, very different from the registers that was in the recorded track of the song. There's also a lot of different textures and different just enunciation, just different things that went into how it sounded while being performed that is very different from the recorded version. Number one. Number two, they also used a variation or a layered variation of the song on the backdrop. So while they're singing it, a layered version of the vocals as well as the music is playing in the background. What they were dancing to. So it kind of acts as the backup vocals for what they were singing as they were performing it. It's something that can easily be heard while watching the performance. And again, these are all kind of guesses on my end just based from what I've observed, but that's another thing that I noticed. Number three is just the choreography itself. So again, I'm really curious as to how they would go with it, because it's not an easy song to sing and it's also not an easy song to perform. But what I noticed is they really went with toning down the intensity of how they perform the song, meaning it was very strategic that they weren't performing as hyped as they would have in the choreography video and the dance performance video. It's kind of a mellow-ish or toned down version of the actual choreography, or at least energy that they were putting in it. as a strategy to save stamina so that they can also perform it well vocally. So it's not to compromise all of the elements. I think they kind of like compromised a bit in terms of just the intensity of how they were performing the choreography and the dance itself, just so they wouldn't sacrifice how the vocals would turn out. And I honestly had no problems at all with it. It's just something that's very noticeable if you compare like how they dance with the choreography video where they didn't have to like sing through it, versus this one where they're performing it actually on stage with vocals and all these things. And that's totally fine with me because it didn't make much of a difference. I just noticed that in the way that in some of their movements, you know, it was less, there was less dynamics to it, but because of their expressions and the way, like the showmanship overall of how they did it, as well as the camera work, it really helped kind of like elevate the performance into something that is what you would expect live. And again, for me, these types of compromises or these types of kind of like changes in the way that something is performed in order to perform it right is very strategic. I think that it takes a lot of energy as well to kind of like find that right balance, because I think they've rehearsed it a lot in a sense that they would find the right energy to put in the dance that would still make their vocals kind of like work. And that's definitely a lot of, it takes a lot, it takes a lot of discipline and control to make something like that work out. And I think it's also very meticulous and strategic on their part to be able to make that happen. Because if someone ends up pushing themselves too much into the choreography as how they usually did it in the dance performance video and the choreography video that they posted before, then that might affect, you know, the way that they're performing the song vocally, and at the same time, you know, just the stamina that they're putting into the performance. But having that right blend of things, it really shows a lot about not just their professionalism, but the way that they tweak these types of performances into something that is advantageous to them, but is still enjoyable to their audience. So that's definitely one thing. In terms of the costume, I do feel like they made the right choice in terms of choosing the costume that they use in the dance break of the official music video. It's because the white costume, as much as I love that one, I do feel like it's been overly exposed already with them using it in the dance performance music video as well. Plus, I think it fits with the track, like the costumes that they were wearing. It just fits with the whole like street style, swaggy vibe of, you know, of the song itself. So that's really cool. It's interesting to me that Sho chose to wear a cap because, again, he's talked about this before in interviews that he likes wearing a cap when he's dancing because he wants people to focus on his dancing. And so there's that. But I absolutely love the attitude and the energy that they brought into this one. Again, it's not the full 100% energy that I see in their other music videos, which they can lip sync because those are filmed videos, but because it's a live performance, they still brought a lot to it without necessarily over exhausting themselves into, you know, having a cracky performance. And again, that really takes a lot of like effort and practice and discipline and control to make happen. I, again, with Jin and Kishi, obviously with Kishi, I've always loved his dancing style. It's so distinct apart from, you know, Sho has his own style, Kishi has his own style, and I've always loved Kishi's dancing style. He has his own level of swag and level of discipline in terms of how he performed. And with Jin, absolutely, I think a lot of people really continuously gets emotional when it comes to Jin because of his constant improvement when it comes to, you know, dancing and being a performer. And again, I love his expressions. I love what he's bringing to the table when it comes to being so expressive about the way that he's being theatrical at some of the parts of his solos, of just connecting with the camera. All three of them, it shows that they're having so much fun, and there's a lot of energy and thought that went into this performance. And it's just 2 minutes in, it's a full song that they did, but again, there's it's so worthy to be, you know, the first performance that they did as a new unit on television for fans to see before the concert that's happening later in latter weeks of March, and at the same time before their single release. What else is there to say? I think just overall, it was just like, I've talked about this before. I'm really proud of them pushing this type of performance. Again, there's what I noticed here is it might not be, again, the same level of intensity that other people are probably like expecting from them. People might have comments about the way that they delivered it, but to me, it just made sense because that's what made their performance work, is because, you know, they really, it was very tactical of them to be able to do this, to be able to perform Goat in the way that they did, because it's not an easy song at all, and they did such a good job in terms of mixing that like the layering of the background of this song and performing it, and you know, all these things. I also want to comment very, very briefly on their decision to put all their songs on streaming platforms. I think a lot of people had mixed reactions to it. Some people, including myself, are really, really happy that they're putting all of the songs, including the B-sides, on streaming platforms. Other fans are kind of like worried because of how it might affect CD sales and all these things. In my opinion, from past experience of being a fan of, you know, like being a fan of from where their former groups from their former agency, and even back when they were still in Kimpuri, it's so hard to recommend these songs because they're not on streaming platforms, and the only way to do it, at least recently, is to share through YouTube, like the music videos, but there's like the rest of the discography is not available. In terms of CD sales, I think just knowing them, they probably were very bold in like wanting to try it out and to put their music out there, and it's not much of an issue of chasing the sales for CDs. They think that their fans would be very happy to buy these physical CDs with, you know, the documentary, the making video, whatever, all these things. But at the same time, it makes the discoverability, accessibility of their music available as well and easily recommendable. And that's where that makes it easier for fans to recommend their music, because Goat, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but probably their B-side song, judging from the titles, it might explore different genres that might have something for different people, and it makes it easier to recommend their music, to spread their music, to share their music. And I think it's such a good move on their part, and it takes a level of boldness, riskiness, and even cockiness, I think, and confidence to be able to put your music out there and, you know, not think that if you put it out there available for people, then therefore they're not going to buy the CDs themselves. I think it's such like an open idea for them to be able to, you know, allow fans to have these options, and to trust their fans to support them either way on wherever it is or what type of format they're putting their music in. And I'm just really happy that they did it, because again, I'll be traveling again soon, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to receive my CDs on time, but I'm glad that I'll still be able to listen to the songs on the release day of the single itself, because they're putting on streaming platforms. And yeah, like these types of things, these types of considerations, I think they're being very, very careful about what they're releasing and their path as number I, and I think there's a lot of thought to it, and I highly respect them for that, and I highly admire them for that, and I love them even more because of that. And I think this is just a beginning for them. I'm looking forward to talking more about their future performances. I'm looking forward to talking about the upcoming concert. They're going to stream it on Amazon Prime. I'll also put a link to that in the description below. Sadly, I wasn't able to get tickets to the live performance, but I'll be in Japan during the concert week. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to it as well, because I absolutely want to see them back on stage just performing and having the time of their lives. And I think yeah, that's mostly it for today's video. Now, tell me down in the comments below. Number one, what are your thoughts on their Venue 101 performance? Number two, which B-side song are you looking forward to the most to hear from their release? And number three, will you be going to the concert or will you be catching the Amazon Prime stream? Let's talk it out down there. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon in a new one. Bye!